Welcome back, YouTubers. You're looking for Mr. Land's Flipped History channel. You made it back. Video one, you saw it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Here we are for video two. The title on the screen is the Transatlantic Slave Triangle. Sensitive topic here today, YouTubers. Before we dive in, process skill students, especially if you're in my class today, we got to be thinking as we watch, okay? We can't just let the button play and be lost on the information. So as we're going, let's make sure that we're listening really well, okay? And sometimes you have to read the screen. And also by reading and listening, this can cause you to want to pause and rewind so that you can catch information that you missed. Make sure that you're doing that actively, focused, reading, listening, pausing, rewinding as you need to. And of course, check those questions on that Cornell note sheet so you can kind of follow the questions and with the content, you don't get lost, all right? So let's dive in. First things first, always, let's start with some vocabulary. I'll read these now for you. Number one, transatlantic. Number two, cash crop. A cash crop agriculture. Sorry about that. Number three, plantation. Number four, profitability. Number five, laborers. Number six, persecution. Pause me now, get those down on your sheet. Voila, excellent, you did it. Let's get into the basic knowledge of the video today. What is the Transatlantic Triangle and what were the goals of it? Is it really a triangle, they'll ask me? Yeah. What were the causes and the effects of this triangle on the New World of America as the exploration of the New World was growing? Well, when we get into the topic of slavery, this is not one that I will bring any humor to in the classroom whatsoever. It deserves our sincerity and respect for the horrors of slavery that built America. And we have to treat it with respect. So nothing of what I'll present in class or on video is ever going to be humorous in nature when talking about the subject. So students, I will expect that you please give it that type of reverence and sincerity that it deserves, all right? It is an interesting topic, but we must be sensitive with it. So let's begin. Take a look here. Transatlantic is a word that means prefix transatlantic, ocean, means to travel across. So in this case, travel across the ocean. And in the picture there, you see the Atlantic Ocean. And then you see the continents listed, right? So when you look at the continents, can you see the triangle? You can almost visualize the triangle as you look at it. Now, it doesn't mean it was a literal triangle in the water, but it just meant that the triangle was a path for ships to be able to sail along as they would exchange products, goods, crops, which are grown in the ground, and slaves. And these ships would travel along this triangle. That's what we mean when we say across the ocean triangle. So in the New World, as we learned in the last video, Columbus, that greedy, vile man, he is credited with being important in history because he opens the door to exploration to the New World. He thinks he's in India and Asia, and boom, he finds a whole new set of continent and a whole new set of peoples. Well, these explorers wanted to build their empires, right? Their glory, as we say in the 3Gs. Now, they wanted to make their empires, and more specifically, make wealth, make profits. So these explorers brought with them, unfortunately, an environmental consequence, which was that the sicknesses of the old world were totally brand new to the new world. So native peoples like the Taino Native Americans that Columbus encountered in the West Indies, they were not used to sickness. So they got wiped out by things like measles, smallpox, even the flu or influenza. So these Europeans, they were using these natives to build their empire. And when those natives passed away and died out to the sickness, the Europeans had to find those workers to help them build their empire. And I shouldn't say help, I should say forced to build their empire. So what did they turn to? Well, before we look at the triangle again, the goals of the triangle were pretty straightforward. Number one, the goal here was so that these enslaved natives were forced to work on the crop fields that we will call plantations. Plantations, for lack of a better word, are big old farms where crops were grown, not just any crops, cash crops. Listen to that, cash crops, crops that could be sold in high volume for profit, for money. And that means around the world, so that those empires could be wealthy. Now, these slaves, whether it was the natives or the African slaves, as we'll see, they were forced to work on these plantations so that those crops could be collected or harvested. Now, this means that the South of America, or the southern colonies, are going to become huge because the South is going to be the home of plantations, as we will learn. So again, we see the theme of money, wealth, economics, because those crops are going to make Europeans rich. And those Europeans, they're going to increase that slavery in the New World. There are some examples like tobacco for cigars, or cotton that were used for fabrics to create clothing. Indigo is another really great one that was used to make wools and cottons colored. Now, the second primary goal of the triangle was for those profits made from the cash crops was going to increase the demand of that economics around the world. In other words, it didn't just affect the plantations. It also affected the people buying the goods in different parts of the world, like in Europe or even Africa. So these plantation owners, they demanded that more slaves be brought over to the New World so that these farms or plantations could make more crop, so that they could make more money. It was all connected, all like chain links. And so this movement of slaves from Africa to the New World is called the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. And it grows, and it's disgusting, and it's horrible, because basically the economics of the New World is going to be built on the backs of these African enslaved peoples. And it's totally wrong, and it's totally disgusting. So here is a triangle that kind of resembles the Transatlantic Triangle. So we look at North America. North America sends their cash crops, the New World, right, sends their cash crops to Europe. For what? For that money, for that economics. Now, in turn, that means that Europeans will be forced to want to bring over those enslaved people. Now, from Africa, you see the passage back to North America, or even the West Indies, where Columbus landed, and this is called the Middle Passage. The Middle Passage is the journey that slaves took to make it to the New World. Now, that passage is fraught with horrors. It is where some of the most sensitive, gut-wrenching, heartbreaking stories of the beginnings of slavery in the New World take place, because we're talking about enslaved people, Africans that were snatched and taken against their will, brought on these ships to the New World in the most horrible of conditions. Now, it is estimated by historians that there was approximately 10 to 12 million African people taken from their homes, snatched by their own warlords, kings in Africa, and sent to the New World. Now, the enslaved people were subjected to massive horrors, which we will look at in class. I'm not going to go into detail here, but if you want to look up some stuff on YouTube, TED Talks is great. They do a few videos, and they also have a channel called 60-Second Histories, which I think is also great too. Now, to give you an idea of what 12 million kind of looks like, here is AT&T Stadium. That's home of the Dallas Cowboys, right? Now, some fans out there, maybe not. Now, I use this stadium because it's really new, and it's huge. I've been there, right? It holds about 80,000 people when it is full. Now, that's kind of an inside look right there of what it looks like. How many is 12 million? When I say 12 million enslaved Africans were brought to the New World over the years through the triangle. Well, if we did some math, which I sat down and did, it would take about 171 full Cowboy stadiums to even start to scratch the surface of what 12 million would look like. 171 of those massive stadiums full to the max. That is a tremendous amount of people that were snatched and taken against their will. That's horrible. Just completely horrible. So let's look at the effects really quick. Everything goes up in the effects, meaning the really important factors here. Slavery is going to go up. It's going to become massive, right? Profits, economics from the crops up. Southern colonies that grow the crops, their value is going to go up in profits and in money. And last but not least, the products and the goods that are being made from those crops, like cigars from tobacco, they're going to go up too, because the rest of the world is going to say, I want that item. I want that good, and it can be brought to me. So I want it. Bring it to me. I'm going to pay money for it. And there we go. Those are the increases of the effects of the triangle. So let's review. Can you explain what the triangle is, what its pathways are? Can you identify why there were increases, especially in slavery, along the triangle in the New World? For a little more advanced knowledge, can you look at the consequences of the triangle? How did it affect other parts of the New World? And how did these explorers turn to Africa? Now that's a deeper question because there's more story there. So we'll see you in class, everybody. I want to say thank you for being here and learning. And let's be sensitive about the topic out there. All right, everybody? All right, peace, everybody.